Jesus Christ. You know what working with James DeFiore is like? He's brilliant. Like, he's absolutely brilliant. One of the smartest guys I know. But he's like a 4-year-old. He's like a petulant 4-year-old. If you say, don't do that, the first fucking thing he does is that. I love it. Anyway, welcome. My name is Dean. Welcome to the program. Underneath me, my friend Brad Hopper, paramedic to the stars out in Kingston. Nice to see you. How you doing, buddy? And frontline worker. We're going to team you up with Dr. Dave Jacobs today. Dr. David Jacobs joins us. He's getting a lashing on Twitter which everybody should be concerned about because Twitter's real life. Anyway, so we're going to team him with you, and we're going to get to this week in COVID. It's like this week in baseball, only it's about death and injury.
So like baseball.
Lachlan Cross is here from
I'm here.
95.7 Cruise FM in Edmonton as well. Nice to see you, Lachlan.
Thank you for having me.
Or is it Coughlin?
Coughlin Crotch actually is a Twitter handle I have. I don't use it very much. I think I have the Instagram too. And it was a nickname of mine in high school.
All right.
Coughlin. And that morphed into Crotch. So I was on the anatomy line in basketball. We had a Dick and a Jason Reneker, who we affectionately referred to as Rectum.
Oh.
Yeah.
Very good.
Not a lot of
as you do
homosexuality in that group, hey?
Yeah.
Isn't that what they say? Like the more that you go there,
it's just
talk about
childishness. Yeah, I think it's just like juvenile delinquency. As a matter of fact, I don't think it has anything to do with any of the guys on that basketball team wanting to get it in. But James, you go ahead and fill her up.
There was no.
I just want to diagnose people I've never met before. That's all. I must see what the problem is. But.
There was no weirdness in that regard, but I understand where you're going. I remember we did a what's that game called? Have you done it, or did you do it, or would you do it, or it's a drinking game. And you ask questions, and if you've done it, like, have you ever hitchhiked? Do you have to drink? I forget the name of the fucking game. And it was one of the questions was, have you ever touched another man's junk? And there was all the guys that were in the room that were drinking were all sports guys.
Yeah.
So the answer is yes.
Everyone's looking around.
I think it's called Never Have I Ever.
Hockey.
Never have I ever. That's what it was.
Yeah.
And then someone's like, one of the women who was also drinking in the group goes, "You guys have all touched another man's dick?" And we're like,
who hasn't?
I was on a hockey team. Someone had to hold the cup.
Yeah, it could have been like, have you ever had a rope tied around your penis? And someone goes, yes, I played hockey.
Brad, I had the same
I'd
question.
rather hold the glass than shave the dude.
You're a paramedic, right?
Yes, sir.
You've clearly touched a couple of wieners in your lifetime that don't belong to you.
Yep, strictly employment related.
You ever had to pick one up that wasn't
that earnest face he's making? It's like,
yeah.
You ever had to pick one up that was detached?
Yeah.
No, definitely
not yet.
Not yet. Seen
Something
things
to look forward
attached to them, but never that's been detached.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
we got a 4-H bobbit.
It's not like as a male paramedic, and you happen upon a 911 call. Shh, get down here. There's been an injury to my husband's wiener, and you're like, fucking awesome. I'm on my way. Like, I'd be so excited to get that phone call if I were you. Really? And you get there. Are you not just a little bit more excited to diagnose the situation than you are if, let's say, you get a phone call and it's like, oh, the husband stopped breathing, that kind of stuff?
Excitement may be a push.
I'm with you, Dean. I'm more excited about a junk injury than I am like a stop breathing call.
So is that because, Locke, are you thinking of the story afterwards? Or
kind of.
What you were going to physically have to do at the time you arrive?
Yeah. It's not so much. We're not thinking about the job at hand. We're thinking about the story we can tell over beers.
Exactly.
That's
this
most of our
guy's
calls.
dick was ripped right off.
Yeah,
you wouldn't believe it.
Those stories too.
I've known
Lachlan. You guys got to see this picture, but don't show anybody. Don't tell anyone I told you.
Yeah.
Lachlan, I've known Lachlan, Brad, for a year or something like that, and I learned rather quickly, but probably slower than others, that confiding to him probably not the best idea because it might be on air the next. It will be on air.
We have a rule.
It's painful.
We have a whiteboard in my office, and there's a bunch of rules on it. One is no fucking crying on the air, and another one is if you don't want it on the show, don't tell Lachlan.
Yeah,
I'll bring it up.
Yeah.
How about a job exchange, Locke? Once this settles down, we'll switch
He'd be the
roles for
worst.
just a day.
Can I drive the ambulance?
Lachlan's,
You can
Only if I
switch
can
it up.
drive the ambulance.
Yeah, you can drive. You can see
Okay.
how frustrating.
you got to
that
be
is
careful
too,
though,
but
Brad,
yeah.
because Lachlan's middle name is Double.
Oh, yeah.
Ooh,
Gotcha.
once again, he's just coming in hot with 2 dad jokes inside the first 6 minutes of the podcast. That's fucking good, dude. That's like
I'd
legendary.
rather have you actually work with me, Locke. We'll do a shift together. Let's figure
That'd
that
be
out.
fun. I'm in, Brad.
Do you take people on ride-alongs, Brad?
No more.
Hopper?
No more.
Nope. No more. You're not
they've,
allowed, not because of COVID.
Even before COVID, it kind of liability issues. We had a young, me personally,
Lawyers, Rick.
they used to do it high school co-op.
Yeah.
That young, like talking 16 years old, and they're seeing some things they don't really know they're ready to see yet, and they quash that.
Yeah.
But it's a hard predicament because how do you know you want to do it? How do you know you can do it? You need to try it. I was fortunate enough to ride out a little bit before I went out, but now COVID's really messed things up. Basically, we only have other medics with us that are adding on or rehabilitating, or we got physicians come out, right? The emerge docs. When they're in resident school, they'll come see what's at the other end of the phone. But that's about it.
It's kind of boring. I have been on ambulance ride-alongs because I grew up in an age where I would also go on police ride-alongs. So I was friends with paramedics, and I was also friends with cops. Both. If you want to get really drunk, you go on the ride-along with the cops. If you don't. If you don't want to get really drunk and you want to see some real gore, you go on a ride along with the paramedics. But you know what has amazed me about the paramedics is when I was talking to them, each one of these guys was like 3 years in, 6 years in. It was really hard to talk to guys that had like 10, 12, 15 because apparently they were talking about the burnout rate being so high because of the shit you see. Yeah.
They don't last. I just saw a buddy of mine retire last week, and he is honestly one of the rare from the beginning to the end. He started out in 84 and he walked away last week, and we were all so happy for him, but that's unheard of. I didn't survive. I still ended up going to fire as well. I couldn't do it all the time. And it was as much the workload as what you see and what you hear in the politics and whatnot. But no, you're right. It's rare. It's a rare thing to start and to walk away in the same career that many years later.
Very cool, though.
Yeah, it's super cool. It's like the most selfless job you can go on.
Cops as well.
Yeah. So you know what I'm talking about the drinking. I'll tell you a story.
It wasn't a volunteer thing. I was asked to get in the back.
I've had that.
Only twice.
Okay. So that's not a ride-along. That's called getting arrested, just so you know. Totally different. Like a ride-along is when you get invited and you willingly get in the car.
Well,
when
they
you
brought
get in the
me
car,
into the police station and let me stay the night, too. I mean, I thought that was nice of them.
Was it drinking related?
Oh, yes.
Yeah, of course it was.
Both times.
Oh yeah. No. So that's not a ride along. That's an arrest for public drunkenness. I think that's probably.
I wish I would have thought of that when my mother picked me up. I was just on a ride along.
So they all say. Anyway, I'm happy Brad's here. Dr. David Jacobs is going to join us in a few minutes, and we're going to talk a little bit about where we're at. But we've had a couple of developments, and I figured it'd be great to start today's podcast with This Week in COVID. So we've had a few developments over the past 24 to 48 hours. Last time you were on, we were talking about your job, how difficult it is to do that job, how difficult it is to get dressed up in PPE and have 14 different skill testing questions you have to ask people before you run into a house with someone having a fucking heart attack. Can you imagine that, by the way? Can you imagine doing this man's job right now, or being a female, any kind of paramedic? I don't care what gender you are. And you get a phone call and you're like, hey, 911, my husband's dying. And you're like, I'm on my way. And you get there, sirens going, and you finally get to the door, and you're like, and she goes, there he is, he's dying. And the paramedics are like, that's fine. Listen, I've got 14 questions to ask you before I can enter the premises.
It's no joke.
That's what's happening.
It's happening right now.
It's like choking in the background.
Yep. We cannot enter.
Hang on, fella. Hang on.
Ears falling off his face.
Stay positive.
So
Yeah.
the questions could be, do you have abdominal pain that's new? Instantly, we got to gown up. Do you have the shits? Most of these things that are going on in the world will cause you to answer yes to these.
Yeah.
And then we get into, do you know somebody awaiting a COVID test? Are you awaiting a COVID test? Have you traveled outside of Ontario? And it just goes on. And usually they don't even listen. Let's be honest. No. They skip through it all. They're like, just get in it.
Mhm.
So as soon as they fail, that's when we're full garb. That's.
And has anybody passed this last? You worked this last week. How many people passed? Not one.
Not one of mine. No.
See?
No, it's just gown after gown after gown. It comes to a point where you just don't. You put it on, you're going to peel it back, and the odd chance they could pass, but next to impossible.
Yeah. So you've that's just a day in his life. But what? 513 new infections today here in the province of Ontario, which is pretty big news. And then they announced that they may be moving to certificates, which is pretty big news. Which is like passport light, I guess, here in the province of Ontario. And then something else happened today. We put out a post about it, but big news that affects, I think, everybody here is that the Prime Minister, Justin Trudeau, and his office today announced that they're pulling a snap election. They're going to call a snap election on the 20th of September in the middle of a fucking uptick with deadly Delta variants and Lambda variants running around and ICUs being what they are in this country. This dickhead has called an election, snap election, which, James, if I'm not mistaken, is it like a year early? Am I wrong?
Well, technically, you can do a mandate or a session of parliament, whatever it's called, for 5 years. Most of the time, an election happens like every 4 years. Parliamentary system works a little bit differently, where the ruling party sort of has some control over when the election is. But this has been, it will be less than 2 years or around 2 years, and tail end. And then during that time, it was basically, 75% of the time it's been a pandemic. It's just an opportunist kind of move. That's all it is. Like, they just want to consolidate power. They want to take advantage of the Max Bernier's going across the country and, putting the fear of God into people about conservatives. And they want to, virtue signal their way to a majority government. I don't think it's going to work.
I get that.
Really? You don't think it's going to work?
I don't think so, because
really?
I think by the time we get to the election, he's going to have enough time to fuck it up, I think. And so I don't see them losing. I think they're going to win another minority parliament. I think they're going to be nibbled on both ends by the NDP and the Conservatives.
Sorry, Brad.
Yeah.
No,
and that's the thing.
understand.
We can get into the political part of them calling an election 3 years early or 2 years early, whatever it is. But I mean, the fact that we're in a pandemic and we've all been on hold for 2 fucking years and this can't wait. Brad, as a paramedic, your thoughts?
My words exactly. Why the hell are we doing this now? And we're going to coincide it with back to school on top of everything else. We're all going to be traveling this summer. We're coming from wherever we've been. And we're going to go back to school. We're going to go back to our homes. We're going to go back to our work. And then we're all going to gather at the polls. Are you kidding me? Just seems like they're stepping on us day after day after day. And I honestly can't. I thought they couldn't do any more to us. And they're constantly screwing us again. I'm not ready for it. I don't know what I'm going to do. And I know we're all in the same boat. Not just the frontline people. It's everybody. They're telling us to stay safe and not do that. And now they're saying, let's go to the polls. Are you kidding?
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, it's hard to imagine. Like, I get what he's doing, James, but like, I go through the Rolodex of things in my head that this fucking idiot has said over the past, since 2015, whenever they came to power. Was it 2015? I think it was.
Yeah.
Since 2015. And, citizens of this country and their health, safety, and welfare is the most important thing to me. We're going to get through this together. Stay at home. Those you remember those cottage press conferences where he was going on and on about how hard this is and how difficult it is, and if we just stay together and if we stay inside and if we encourage each, and the fireside chats with all the kids who are getting depressed and all that stuff because of that. He's sending us. He's demanding we go out and help him in the middle of it now. Like, does that Is that lost? Because no one's talking about that portion of it. No one's talking about the portion of, we get what he's doing politically. That's a great conversation. But we're glossing over, and no one with the Prime Minister's office, no liberal, no analyst, nobody worth their salt in the political community is saying what we're trying to say, what a paramedic is saying right here, which is, are you fucking kidding me? After all this, after you ruined and helped ruin our fucking lives with the aid of a fucking pandemic, you're telling us to go and gather with people at hockey rinks to give you a better mandate, to give you more power, to increase the influence in your power center? Like, that's really the bottom line, is it not, James?
Well, yeah, and there's no good reason to call the election.
Yeah, there is. He knows he's got no strong competition. That's why, James.
Okay, well, what I meant by that is there's no reason to call the election that's good for all of us, is what I'm saying. There's no on paper, there isn't anything for the country that's the country would be in really good shape if we call an election right now because of that reason. It's all party centric, right? The idea that Trudeau is gonna win over more people by doing this is a little bit lost on me. I think that just by calling this election, I think he might end up losing votes, not necessarily because the people that support him aren't going to vote for him, but the people that might want or who were thinking about supporting him might not want to go and gather in the hockey rink. And a lower voter turnout in an election in Canada always is good for conservatives, not liberals. So I don't know.
That gives me hope.
Honestly,
because I'm really worried we're getting that tool again. I mean,
we're getting him again. We're getting him again because the other leaders are useless, and he'll probably get it. I mean, I could be wrong. He could get a majority, and I could be wrong about everything I'm saying right now. But my gut tells me he'll get another minority, and he'll lose like a dozen seats. But
mail-in voting coming.
Yeah, that's another one.
That won't upset people at all.
Mail-on votes. I think she means mail-in. Yeah,
mail-in
that's
voting.
Going to be awesome. Yeah, because it didn't bother the Americans, so it probably won't bother us, right?
Emily likes the mail-on vote stuff, so that was a Freudian slip, I think.
But I just, in adding to the list, it's almost like it just gets added to the list of things that we have to deal with, right? Like the last thing you want to do, and I wrote a piece on this week. Do you know how many people in this country lost their jobs this year? 60% of small business closed shop. Mm-hmm. We have bankruptcy rates that are higher than ever in the history of our monetized country. We have depression and suicide and anxiety rates that are higher than we've ever seen in the history of this country. And through all of this, people being locked in their houses, losing their jobs, family members dying, family members with long haul issues, family members with seizures and heart attacks from one thing or another associated with this, empty chairs at the kitchen table. This fucking loser has decided to force us into small buildings with voting booths so that he can get something out of it. And I know I write posts and pieces, and I try to represent both sides. I try to represent the fact that each one of these parties and each one of these leaders is using us and using our health crisis and using this pandemic as a way to get something for themselves. Those are the receipts. That's just what we see. Like, these are the same people with different parties, and the guy who's in power has the hammer right now because the other two cats are completely fucking useless. So while he's trying to get control so he can ram through freedom of speech problems and so he can push through shit to make us look a whole lot more like China than we do look like Canada, which is really what he's doing. He wants to work towards a preventative dictatorship. And I don't say that lightly. Sending people in a pandemic to give you more power is exactly that. Like, this isn't about more seats. This is about more power. This isn't about a vote of confidence or an agenda. This is about more power. And he's sending sick people to the polls during the fucking plague to get it done.
I have a question about, and James, you might have an idea about this. There's been a handful of elections called in Canada, right? Provincially?
Right now, are people in campaign
In
mode
the last year?
I don't even know, to be perfectly honest with you. I know I
think
I
there
have no,
was-
I think we're like, I have no idea. You know what? I don't know.
There was in
Thanks a lot.
BC, and I think there was in Nova Scotia.
Yeah, and I think in Manitoba, Pallister said he wasn't going to run again, and that's up this next year. I think we're in and around a year's worth of elections in some capacity in different provinces. Yeah.
Yeah, there. So I'm just wondering what the rhetoric around those elections being called during the pandemic was. Like, what were because the guy that ran in Nova Scotia specifically, I believe he's liberal leaning. I don't know what the name of the party was, but he was in power, called an election, and secured a majority government, I believe. And I can't remember his name, younger guy, but I wonder if he took any criticism for calling an election during the pandemic in Nova Scotia.
They might have just been in their election cycle. So he might not have actually called it.
I don't think so. I think he called it early. I seem to recall, and I could be wrong. I'm just wondering if this conversation we're having now about him doing this, for obvious reasons that he's got no competition, and right now the conservatives who would have the best chance of
the timing's right,
doing any damage.
Just as an overarching topic, I think that the political opportunism and the ability to just politicize a pandemic we've seen since the beginning. We've seen Ford do it. We've seen Kenny do it. We've seen Trudeau do it. We've seen mayors do it. John Tory's done it. It's not surprising that if that were the case, that people were calling elections to suit them and their party. I don't know if the voters, for the most part, if we just focus on the federal election, I don't know if the voters are going to be really all that pleased to vote for the person that forced us, like Dean said, into an election when we don't have to have one. There is only one reason to do it, as you were saying before, Lachlan, which is because he's got no
competition. He's got zero competition. I mean, I hate to say this, but how many people even know O'Toole's name? Like, is he even yet a household name for the Conservative Party yet? I don't know if he is.
No, he's not. No,
I mean, and I'm not helping by calling him Archie Bunker on my show every time instead of his actual name. Like, that's not doing him any favors. Anyway.
But you know how we vote. You know how we vote for people that, let's say a mechanic would vote for a party or a person that represents the wants of a union, right? Brad, and this is more direct to you. When you talk to paramedics and frontline workers, because you are one, about calling the election and the douchebaggery around it and the people that are going to get sick because of it, let's just put that off to the side. Like, are you in the same boat that we all are, or is this more important to people like you because of the work that you do? Because, like, I don't know who. I don't see who you would vote for. I don't see anybody to vote for in this election. But more importantly, I want to know, like, to frontline workers, what's really important if we do have to go to the polls, and who do you trust to be able to make your lives better?
Well, I think we're no
that was a
different
long pause.
Yeah. I'm going to start off by saying, as with all of us, I think we're just tired. I have no time to research a lot of this stuff. I don't have any interest to read. Elections are tiring. If you vote properly and you seek your candidates' backgrounds and histories, and you're actually diligent with that process, it takes a bit of work. And we're all exhausted. This is not the time for this right now. If we did have an ideal candidate, I would honestly think we would hope that someone would learn from this pandemic and bring in our own PPE, our own vaccination. We start to look after ourselves. We need someone that's going to walk the walk, not just talk the talk, because what we had there was such delays and lags, and the security of our own health was out of our hands, that we couldn't even go to our own country to help us out. And if anyone can come forward and say, we got to stop supporting the China, supporting the bigger systems, we need to support ourselves first. I think that's going to draw a lot of attention. But right now is not the time. We're tired. And these other elections Locke's been talking about, I have heard of them. I haven't followed them closely, but they were even earlier on. The longer this thing goes on, the more tired we're getting. And now we're at the creme de la creme, if you will, of the feds electing our country's leader for the next however long. We need to look into that. We don't have time. It's just let us kind of get on our feet again. Let's breathe again. Let us.
Yeah, but has any party or any from the things that you've heard and you've kind of surmised in between saving lives of ungrateful people, has anybody that you are aware of looked out for the interests of frontline workers?
No, nothing's been mandated directly towards us. Nothing been directed that way. We are often a good tool for these tools to plug with, if you will. They like to throw the frontline people out there and say we're here for them. We're their mental health and workload and whatnot in a pandemic.
What have they done? What have they done? What have our government officials done for you? Well, no, I'm asking you, what have they done?
They've changed my PPE about 16 different times just because they don't know the country of origin that it's been manufactured in, and they can't trust what the labels are saying, and they keep flip-flopping on if we're going to have enough. Don't wear this mask today. We might not have enough tomorrow. I honestly can't say I feel overly supported by any of these parties that are out there right now.
Is that still going on with PPE where like they're buying shit PPE from countries and cut rate PPE? Like, is that, because that was a problem like a year and a half ago, wasn't it? I wasn't aware that you guys still had issues with substandard equipment.
We still have issues with recalls. Call it what you want. If it's a substandard known, if it's a cheap out, whatever it was, they're always being changed, upgraded, moved, pulled back. Inventories do seem to be up. Suddenly we have enough of most of what we need. It was the N95 mask originally that was completely limited, but they didn't even know when we should wear those ones compared to the surgical mask or not. It's just a guessing game. We all have our own stuff that we wear now. There are about 3 different types of masks we can choose from, and we have our favorites, and we go with that. And so far, right now, they've been holding on, and they've been supplying us properly. But I will say, is a lot of this PPE is tested and quality control tested in controlled lab environments. We don't work in a controlled lab. No one knows the efficacy of our N95 masks in -15 outside. No one knows if our gowns are working when they're frozen because the sweat inside's frozen in them. No one knows. Everything is done for the proper lab setting that's all nice and climate controlled, which is fine in the hospital settings, but it doesn't help us. We have no idea. We just throw caution to the wind. We wear what someone would wear in an emergency department, and we hope it works.
Yeah,
so
I do too.
What's LTC?
Long-term care.
Long-term care.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
So good to see that, by the way.
Sean, one of our listeners, he said BC within the last hour just announced mandatory vaccines with anybody involved in long-term care. Hasn't happened in this province. It is going to happen, and it might be a good time to bring in another guest. He's a doctor. I think he's standing by right now. Dr. David Jacobs. Are you there, sir?
I am. How are you?
Good. I just wanted to follow up with our tweet exchange. I just want you to know I plan on respecting you for this entire podcast.
I'll do the same, my friend.
That always forces me to be the guy that won't, though. Okay. Yeah. Sorry in advance, David.
Settle down.
David Jacobs is a doctor. He's an Ontario Specialist Association chair. He's the Ontario Association of Radiologists president. He's a husband. He's a hockey dad. David, say hello to another frontline worker, our friend Brad Hooper, who's a paramedic in the Kingston region. Say hi to each other.
Hey, Brad. How are you?
Good to meet you. Good, thank you. Good to meet you.
Yeah, actually, I trained at Queen's, so nice. I'm familiar with your friends from 20 years ago.
Yeah, you probably are. Yeah, I bet you are. Yeah, good to meet you. Glad you.
Yeah, it's great that we've got a couple of legitimate healthcare professionals on with us because we're talking a little bit about vaccines and efficacy, and we talked a little bit about the snap election, which was called on the 20th, and we got Brad's very serious thoughts on that. I do want to pivot a little bit because vaccine passports are all the rage. I think just in the last hour, British Columbia announced that they would mandate vaccines for all their long-term care employees. We've had a couple of other provinces step up to make that same thing a possibility. You're seeing a couple of pro sports teams in this country, like the Winnipeg Jets yesterday announced, fully vaccinated, full capacity. We'll get to the rules of that coming up in a minute. But as a doctor and as someone who is treating these people, someone who sees this every day, Dr. Jacobs, are we being overreactive in having as big an issue as we have with the fact that vaccine passports do not seem to be in the offing for the Ontario government? Mandatory vaccines do not seem to be in the offing for our healthcare workers and frontline workers or teachers. Are we to take from that either the government isn't interested in forcing people to do something they don't want for votes, or are we to take from that these people still aren't listening to science at this late stage of the game?
Well, no, I think it's unfair to say that the Ford government isn't listening to science. They've been listening to science the whole way through, and they've been very cautious. I think some of the issues that you run into with the vaccine passports and forced vaccination is, can you actually do that? And there's a whole legal question around that. One of the issues is, who do you employ? So as an employer, you can say, listen, if you want to work here, you have to be vaccinated. And that makes a lot of sense. But for the government, who do they actually employ? So the federal government has federal employees, the provincial government has provincial employees, but it's actually up to the hospitals to mandate who gets vaccinated. And it's also up to the school boards to mandate vaccination. So, to throw it in the lap of the federal government or the provincial government is a little iffy. I'm not sure that they have that mandate.
Well, why are other governments mandating it then? Like, why is it being mandated in certain provinces in certain applications for healthcare workers and stuff if it isn't the government that should be doing it here in Ontario?
Well, I don't know. And again, I'm a doctor, I'm not a lawyer. So I guess the easier question for me to answer is, would I like to see it mandated? So, I'll answer the question that I asked because I can give you a real answer on that. And I think that there should be a mandate at whatever level, whether it be by the hospitals, by the government, by whoever. You shouldn't be coming in to a hospital setting where we have vulnerable patients, we have dialysis patients, cancer patients, all sorts of patients who are profoundly immunosuppressed. You shouldn't be coming into that environment, whether you be a doctor, nurse, or janitorial staff. You shouldn't be in there if you're not vaccinated.
Mm-hmm. So why is it so hard? Like, I last study I read, it was something like 75 or 80% of people in this province were for mandatory vaccines for healthcare workers. Let's just start there. Let's leave the general public out of it. Are we, if you have that professional opinion, the Registered Nurses Association of Ontario has that opinion, every serious person with a medical degree has that opinion. How is it that the premier of this province and his Minister of Health don't share that opinion then?
I'm not quite sure. Here, just a second. I'm still in a real hospital. Just give me a moment, please, and I'll be right with you. Thanks.
I love it when this happens. It's okay.
Sorry about that.
That's all right.
So there. Again, I can't speak for the government. I'm not part of the government. I can tell you that there are a lot of barriers. So the barriers that I've seen towards vaccination have been pushback by unions. That's one big area. And there's also been the reality that Toronto's multicultural. And there are cultural groups in Toronto with no political affiliation. They're just cultural groups that approach vaccines much differently than other groups have been approaching that. And I want to be careful because these are not groups that I belong to, so I certainly can't speak for them. But we've noticed that there have been some groups that are vaccine hesitant. If you look at historically, with regards to the Caribbean population, when there were drug testing a long time ago, the Caribbean population was often used for testing vaccines, drugs, etc., and not with the same care that other populations had been used for testing. So there's a certain amount of suspicion, and rightfully so by some populations. So I don't want to. I don't want to label anyone as being good or bad in this, but we do have to be realistic as to some of the history behind some of this. So I think that eventually this will come, but it's going to take a little bit of time.
I think that, David, that's a good point, especially a good point in the United States. And it's really interesting to watch the analysts sort of dance around trying to talk about it because on one hand, they have segments. You'll see segments in Canada too on news programs that kind of poke fun. Like the man, I've seen so many man on the street interviews where the person's like, "Well, I just don't understand why the people that don't have the vaccine don't care about human life," and it's just really hyperbolic. And then you realize though that a lot of these marginalized groups and people of color and have historical grievances and real legit reasons to not trust the government injecting them with something. And the long and the short of it is, I don't know if that's a tragic story or if it's injustice or whatever it happens to be, but the end game looks like a two-tiered system. And that second tier is not going to be very white. And so I think a lot of us don't look at sort of the long-term ramifications when it comes to the passport and all of these negative ancillary impacts that are no one's talking about. People are just saying life or death. That's it. Get the passport. And no one's talking about the fact that I think it's 68% of Toronto retailers are against having it because they just see an endless stream of people yelling at them and trying to figure out if they're liable, for safety and all these other things. And I don't know. I don't think we've thought this through at all.
Well,
but that's just
that would be rare, right? For us to not think about something properly,
right?
And then jumping full force into
Right
it.
in.
You don't see that a lot here in this country
Yeah.
or in politics in general. Yeah.
No, but I think that you make a good point, which is that this is going to end up being uneven across our society. We're going to have a lot of people who are already marginalized, whether it be racially or socioeconomically marginalized, who are going to be further marginalized. We've got to be sensitive to that, and I think that that's important. The other thing that you have to remember, though, is that the populations that we're talking about who are a little marginalized, I have a strong suspicion that they will come around. And it's a matter of how do you approach those populations, whether it be through church, through leaders. But once you have a good conversation, I'm quite certain that a lot of these populations will get vaccinated. And then when
it's
we
probably
look
not
at
going to be through church. Just throwing that out.
That's a good place to start working on. There are a lot of different churches out there.
Yeah. Might as well start with the biggest kill. Sure. Let's go.
Yeah.
I have a question.
There's nothing
David.
like a potluck for everybody to get the mark of the beast. Like that would be something. If you can sell everybody at that thing, this injection, man, oh man, you're a born salesperson. Sorry, Locke, go ahead.
It's fine. I have a question, and this is taking the race and the marginalization of it out of it, David. I live in Alberta, and the people that I know that are friends of mine or people that I would casually call a friend that are not vaccinated
Good save.
are very, very white
Yeah.
and quite annoying. And I want the vaccine passport to watch their heads explode. Is there a medical explanation for me?
Schadenfreude, I believe. Yeah, it's called
That is
Schadenfreude.
exactly
Fetal
that is
alcohol
exactly-
syndrome.
So, but that's also another important point. So when you look at the statistics, there is about 6 to 7% of the population who's vaccine hesitant, and then there's 6 to 7% of the population who's just anti-vaccine, period. And I've stopped trying to talk to the anti-vaccine period group, and just because it makes my head explode. There's really no way, there's no way that you're going to get them convinced to get
No.
vaccinated. So really what's important is to minimize the damage that they're causing to the people who are vaccine hesitant. So the vaccine hesitant group is the group that we need to target, and we need to bring them over. And once we bring them over, we will reach what we need for herd immunity. And the group that's just anti-vaccine, period. I mean, okay,
They're just going to die.
They, you know what? They won't. They probably
live forever.
they're going to take the brunt of it, but the people who are going to die are, in a larger proportion, the unvaccinated, which includes the vaccine hesitant, the partially vaccinated, and the anti-vaccine, period. The other group that's going to die, which is going to be very tragic, are the people who are elderly, who even if they have 2 vaccines, a booster, etc., their immune system simply doesn't respond robustly enough to give them the type of protection that they need from COVID. So those people are at risk. The cancer patients, the dialysis patients, those people remain at risk, and that's the tragic part.
So let me just kind of get to some nuts and bolts of the genetics of these variants, right? Like how they're built, what they are, what they mean to people who are vaccinated and unvaccinated. So we're heading into what is widely believed, and I'm sure you would attest, the 4th wave of this thing. Is that correct? Do you believe we're heading into the 4th wave, or no?
So we're definitely entering into another uptick in COVID.
Okay.
But when you call it the 4th wave, and if you want to say it's a 4th wave, fine, I won't argue that point. But what I will say is that we have absolutely no way of knowing what this 4th wave is going to look like, not just in terms of cases, but also in terms of hospital admission, the severity of the hospital admission, and the ICU admission. Moreover, we don't know about morbidity and mortality. So it's a big question mark, and I'm very, very suspicious of people who are coming out with crystal balls saying this is how it's going to be, with doomsday scenarios. I don't think it's particularly helpful. I'd much rather have people, instead of trying to get likes on Twitter, I'd like people to come out and say, listen, this is modeling based on the level of vaccination. This is our worst case scenario, our best case scenario. We think it's going to be closer to the best case scenario than the worst. This is what it's going to look like for the vaccinated. This is what's going to look like for the unvaccinated. And then I'd like the epidemiology community to always couch it and say, these are the assumptions that we're making. Because when somebody comes out and says, everyone's going to die, that's not helpful. And it's not true. So,
and none of us, to be fair, none of us are saying everybody's going to die. What we're trying to do is, based on conditional probability and past experiences, is kind of assess where we're going and trying to preach, the good news to people who are just currently vaccine hesitant. That's how we look at this. And so I understand. I mean, we shame that 6% that's anti-vax, period, but that's just fun for us. We just enjoy it. So,
agreed.
Yeah, good. Okay, so we'll do that off air, you and me, a little bit. But one of the things that I think people need to know is, and it seems to be the same excuse that comes from that same group of anti-vax, period. It's I've already been vaccinated, or if you've already been vaccinated and you're still going to get it, why is it so important that I get vaccinated before the fall if we're just going to see an uptick in cases and herd immunity seems to be around the corner?
So God, there's so many answers, so many reasons why that's just a bad take. You could start off with selfish, but in we need so the Delta variant is much more contagious. We need to have a higher percentage of the population vaccinated in order to protect ourselves with a real herd immunity. Once the borders open, remember that we're all in the same swimming pool as the US. So our 70, 80, 90% vaccination rate is going to be not particularly impressive when you add us to the rest of North America. So that having been said, let's assume the borders stay relatively tight. In order for us to protect the kids 12 and under who can't be vaccinated, we need to maximize the population that is vaccinated. In order to protect the people who are immunosuppressed who will never be adequately vaccinated, we have to get to herd immunity. So it's this idea of, well, the vaccines are for you and to protect you. It's like, no, we're part of a community. Red lights are to protect everyone. Stop signs are to protect everyone. Fire department, EMS, that's to protect everyone. So we live in a communal society. And this kind of fierce individualism, while I'm a libertarian, I do recognize that I have an obligation to those around me as well. And I wish people who were vaccine hesitant would understand that and add that to the calculus as to whether or not they take the vaccine.
Libertarianism isn't necessarily means that you're like all for one and one for all, though. I think that's a calculation. Yeah.
I think it just means you're sick of everybody's shit and you think you kind of understand things enough to not be swayed by popular opinion or parties. Brad Hopper, ladies and gentlemen, you got a question for the doctor. Go ahead.
Thanks for your input, Doc. It's always good to see the upper level of thought, which I can relate to with this instead of the ongoing Twitter battles, for sure. I have a few questions. I want to divide things into two. One is we have mandated vaccinations, completely different topic than the vaccination passports. My thought on the healthcare, let's go healthcare mandated vaccinations, is why are we not implementing these as essential for newcomers to the healthcare profession? We all have vaccinations that are required of us when we get employed. When we start, we agree to it. We meet a certain level of a certain standard. And then we agree to meet those standards to enter the profession. I think that's a starting point right now. It's going to be hard to grandfather those already there. I understand that. But I think those that opt out, whatever reason, in the healthcare world, should then undergo a different, a more stringent, however you want to call it, screening process. They don't get the same, I don't want to say liberties. I just think that there's a different set of rules if you opt out, if you're already employed in this world. If you want to get into it, though, I needed to have a certain class of driver's license. I needed to have a certain level of vision. I needed to have a certain level of aptitude to get in. And now that's just going to be the next standard. I think that's a starting point. Vaccination passports. I don't know how we are looking at this any differently than smoking. I've been around long enough, as most of you, to see the cigarette smokers of the world were completely free reign, and what are we, 20, 25 years ago now, to enter whatever
smoke on a plane.
Exactly. I've seen smokers in the waiting room of a hospital. It actually happened. But why are we treating this any different to say we now know that this particular behavior, this particular opt, if you don't want a vaccination, can increase the harmful effects to those that do have it, i.e. the non-smokers or the vaccinated. And from this point on, these are the new rules. You are not coming into this establishment, this workplace, if you decide you're not going to be vaccinated. That's your choice. You don't have to get it. But now we have the passport. And I don't like the word passport as much as anybody else, but we need to just have an immunization status, and we need to know where we're at. And once you check that box off, you are now entitled to the same things that we were doing with the smokers and non-smokers before. I don't see a whole lot of difference in those two worlds anymore.
I think you make some very good, strong points, and I agree with much of what you say. Just a second, sorry.
That's all right.
with much of what you say. I think that something like a hospital, you should be able to come in if you're fully vaccinated. I think that should be, and that should apply for visitors. That should apply for patients. It should apply, well, not patients, obviously. If you're in an emergency, you just need to come in. But if you're an essential worker or a visitor to a place where people are vulnerable, you should be fully vaccinated. And the same goes for long-term care. Same goes for a number of areas. I think that for the schools, that should be the case as well. I mean, you've got every child 12 and under is not vaccinated. Every adult who goes into these establishments should be vaccinated. Now, do you need to do it as a passport? I don't know. But I think that there are certain areas where we have to just be sensible as a society and say, listen, it's not safe for you to express your individualism there. And in terms of whether it should be grandfathered or not, I just think it should be uniform, actually. And so I do think that whether you're new or old or what have you, if you're not vaccinated, you really shouldn't be in these settings. And if you can't understand the need for vaccination, that concerns me terribly.
That's a nice way to say it.
That's the most polite anyone's been.
Yeah,
in a long time since.
Just a couple of quick comments that I want to get to, and I think in form of questions. How susceptible are kids? This is from Stony, positive Mike. Kids to the variant, the ones that can't be vaccinated due to age. We haven't broached this subject because we've been busy beating the shit out of people with facts. But between the ages of 0 to 12, no one's getting vaccinated. How susceptible are those kids? Because that to me is my biggest concern, even though I don't have any kids in that age gap.
Well, so the answer is up until Delta, they were pretty good. But they've got a respiratory system. The virus doesn't care, doesn't check your ID at the door. It's just going to infect you. So they are susceptible to infection. In terms of in school, they actually had a great deal of success keeping the rate of infection down, although many people will vigorously debate me on that. That's what we've seen. We did not see huge numbers of infections in schools. We didn't see the schools driving the pandemic, as some people will say. But again, that's another debate. So these kids are susceptible. With the Delta variant, we have to recognize that it's more contagious. Same kids, you're going to have a higher rate of spread in the school if it gets into the school. So you got to keep it out of the school. In terms of how sick they're going to get, you'll have to, we're going to have to tease apart some of the data coming out of India, where the Delta variant really ravaged the country, and that'll give us a better idea. I don't have a good handle on the data at this time.
Okay. Is there a percentage difference in how much more, or a firm percentage difference in how much more the Delta variant is transmittable, David?
I don't have a firm percentage, but from the very reliable people, just think chickenpox. So super duper infected. All right.
Okay. So, I was actually wondering, I think, Dean, we were talking about this the other day, or I was talking about this with someone. How, did they have to develop a whole new to detect the Delta variant? Like when they're testing, how do they know the difference between COVID? This might sound like a stupid question, but I just want to know. Like when they're testing, how do they tell the difference between COVID original and the Delta variant?
Well, that's outside of my field of expertise. Remember, I'm a radiologist.
Well, what the fuck,
chest
David?
X-rays, and I ring lungs, and I do biopsies, but I don't know everything about everything.
Okay. So
Delta's
one answer. Yeah, one answer that I would love to get from you. No, stop it. He doesn't care about your bunions. But this is again, the last part of this comment. It's the thing on your foot. Last part of this comment. If we're hitting a fourth wave, then that garbage they've been selling you doesn't work. A lot of people saying this. Your thoughts on that? Could you answer it for Tanner, because you're a legitimate doctor and he's not? I'm guessing.
Odd that Tanner's an anti-vaxxer with that name.
So wait a second. So what's the question exactly?
The question is, if we're hitting a fourth wave, then that garbage they've been selling us doesn't work. I just want you to clear it up. Is it garbage that they've been selling us that doesn't work?
Does the vaccine work against the Delta
vaccine
variant?
work for the fourth wave? Yeah. Because you don't die.
All right, that's all we wanted to know.
It's good not to die.
They're variants. They're not completely different diseases. The vaccine is still, it might not have the same impact, right? But it still has an impact overall on the variants.
It has the same impact. You don't die. So the idea is so first of all, the vaccine is not 100%. No vaccine is 100%. Polio vaccine wasn't 100%. All right. But so you can still catch it. You can still spread it. What it's going to do is it's going to make sure that you don't get as sick and the viral load in you is not as high. So you are protected and people around you are protected. And the more and more people who are protected adds to bricks in the wall. And eventually the wall gets high enough that the people who are not protected, who are behind the wall, are de facto protected.
That's a really good idea. A wall. And
you know what?
Everybody is a brick. Everybody is a brick. And we put the unvaccinated behind the wall, and they're safe.
Happy with that. I'm not happy sharing a wall with unvaccinated people. Number one, and number two, that's called in the real world, Doc. It's called fucking freeloading. That's what it's called.
Okay, I have something I have a question, David, and I know that I can sort of you're doing your best to mask your frustration with the level of stupid, which is fantastic. Good for you. I hope you make a lot of money.
You're doing great.
You're doing great. But here's my question. Cause I have daily conversations with people because I have a radio show in Edmonton. So anytime we talk about this, I usually get we will get a couple of texts or phone calls or whatever. And I have daily conversations about this, and there seems to be this surprise that the vaccine isn't 100% effective. And this morning I said to this guy, I said, it never was advertised as 100%. And I'm looking around going, why do I keep having this conversation? Why is that so difficult for people to understand that?
Because they don't want to, dude. You don't have to ask a doctor. I can give you that answer. Dr. Dean will give you that answer. Because the majority of people don't want to, and the rest of them are just scared of needles. Like, seriously. Or scared of what's in the needle. And so they want to, like, super research it as opposed to relying on other people. Like that.
But we have been promoting that from day one, have we not? Like,
yeah, at Groundhog Day,
from
dude.
Day one. Like, it's like, this is 85. No, okay, now we've done a little bit more studying, and now we're up to 87. Now we're up to 90. Like, this is just common knowledge. It just drives me crazy that doesn't cut through.
Every time we have a person that's in the medical field on the show, and we ask them about Dr. Tam and the federal health minister, they all say the same thing, that they are incompetent people that tell us things that that turn out to be not true. A lot of the times they don't take responsibility. I'm sure, David, you're probably.
David's shaking his head at you right now, so let's get him on. Yeah, look at it. He's like, I don't know.
Not everybody has said that. Everyone said they're frustrated with the messaging. But no one said they were incompetent.
I talked about the message.
Go ahead, David.
So Dr. Tam is not our top communicator. Let's be honest with that. She has trouble.
You should be a fucking diplomat, David.
but she's very smart. She understands the science. She's been right more than she's been wrong. She's really taken a beating for it. I've been hard on her for a couple of things. The two issues that I've been hardest on her for have been with regards to the borders. They should have been closed much sooner, and with regards to masking. I know that won't be popular with some people, but I saw what was happening in Taiwan immediately, and I'm like, that's what you should be doing. And then I didn't want to step out of line with what the public health officers were saying, but I knew that that was something that we needed to do. I knew it was where we needed to go. And then once Fauci said, yeah, we need to start masking, then I felt much more comfortable because, in the world of infectious disease, there is no source higher than Fauci. That man
But
is
David,
a legend.
let me ask you a question. I have a question here now.
Yeah.
When you're sitting there in front of your computer or about to pick up your phone to make a phone call, what's stopping you? Is it politics? Where's that hesitancy that you had?
So the hesitancy is my level of expertise. I'm a doctor. I have a science background. I can read papers, but I don't want to assume that I know more than the epidemiology community, than the infectious disease community. I don't. So I very much rely on a few sources for my information before I speak, because I have a responsibility as a physician to make damn sure that what I say, whether it be on Twitter or anywhere else, has strong evidence to support it. Now, the people that I use to support my what I say are Fauci, the NIH, the CDC. I also very much rely for pediatrics on the Hospital for Sick Children and CHIO. Those are my go-to people. I understand. I trust them. They understand the science better than I do.
Whoa,
so even though I can read it, I trust them.
Whoa, doctor! You didn't say Facebook.
Well, that's where all the experts are. Clearly.
That's what I was going to ask you, because you're talking about source material, right? Like legitimate source material from unbiased, legitimate sources. And I tell people that all the time. Don't read the news. Don't rely on ABC, Facebook, Twitter. Go to the source, get the information, and legitimately learn how to read some of these papers and studies. But as a doctor, I don't have skin in the game. You do. And you're actually preaching some real serious common sense here. When you see other doctors, like you just talked about, your responsibility to stay in the specific lane that you're in and be able to be right when you're right. And so you wait on that, you pause on it, you get your information from good people, and then you'll put your thoughts out there. When you see doctors doing the opposite of that, and there's lots of quacks that somehow are convinced that this vaccine's terrible for us, which is causing us all kinds of problems, as a legitimate doctor, does it make you angry? Does it frustrate you at all?
It's hard to watch.
You want to sue any of them here? Because you can. If you want to name names, I'm good.
I can't name names, and I can't because I'm actually currently involved in a legal action accusing me of defamation because I had the audacity of calling somebody and saying, listen, that's not correct what you're saying. So as are a number, it's a matter of public record. There are a number of doctors who are also involved in this particular lawsuits, a number of media.
For correcting crazies? Is that correct? That's how I say it. That's how I say it. For contradicting the opinion of another medical professional. Is that correct?
Who's a moron?
So anyhow, the long and the short of it is that you go out there and you need to be careful about what you say, because you want to make sure that it's correct, because you have a responsibility as a physician to be correct. Now, you can say it in an amusing way, you can say it in a way that's going to be communicate the idea most effectively, but you do have to be responsible about it. And I try, if you look at my Twitter feed, which is really how I interact mostly, or if you listen to me on Global, I try not to kind of grind down on people who are hesitant or who are just vaccine, anti-vax. Sometimes the mask slips a little bit, but I try to be kind of level because there's a certain amount of professionalism that's expected as well. But It is frustrating to see people pushing a lot of the anti-science, and when you are a physician and you're taking that an approach that is outside of what is the accepted medical dogma, you have a lot of impact. there are a lot of people who are going to rally around you. And so for every time I say get a vaccine, I might influence 2 people. But when somebody who's a doctor says, don't get the vaccine, it's going to kill you, they're going to influence hundreds of people. So I have very little impact, unfortunately. And the people who are, it's a confirmation bias. The people who are professionals who are saying don't get the vaccine, they have a tremendous amount of impact, disproportionate.
Yeah, the sort of the negative narrative often has a stronger track for whatever reason, especially on social media. I have a question about these doctors and their involvement with politics and politicians. So in Ontario, you have a provincial doctor that represents the Ford government. In Alberta, we have a doctor that represents the Alberta government, and they're working hand in hand. And I think that Canada did a good job, if I can say that out loud. They did a decent job in involving the medical community and letting them sort of step out first and kind of not so much drive the narrative, but at least present the facts first before they spoke in most situations, at least from what I saw from press conferences. But behind the scenes, Doctor, what do you think their struggle was balancing the political narrative and the medical narrative? Do you think there was some struggles for Dr. Hinshaw and other doctors in her position across the country provincially?
No, certainly. It's I don't envy her at all. I don't envy any of these physicians. They're in a very, very difficult situation.
Mm-hmm.
A big part of the problem is how rapidly this pandemic changes, and how with every variant you have, uncertainty, and then you have so many additional variables, whether it be the borders, whether it be the politics of borders, whether it be the politics of the classroom, the unions. It's impossible. And then you have, and you've got endless armchair quarterbacks, some of whom are quite well educated and whose opinion gives you pause, and others who have absolutely no education or shouldn't be speaking but have a very loud, powerful voice.
You just described my show. Shouldn't be speaking, uneducated, loud.
Yeah. Well, and you know what? We'll let you. Dr. David Jacobs joins us, and we'll let you split here in a second. And we appreciate you being here. But you bring up a good point. Like we live in a time where people are literally rewarded for speaking out of turn. Right? Like we live in a time where, speaking out of turn can make you a hero in a community of idiots. So, be careful. And as hard as that is for me to remember, I think one of the things that I've tried to influence my life and my writing and my speech, and when I talk to people, it's sometimes your opinion isn't warranted. And if you don't have a medical opinion, if you don't have a legitimate medical background and you don't understand the science, you're that person. Like you are literally that person. And if you do understand the science and you have an alternative opinion other than the facts and truth, you're just in the way. So get out of the way and start educating yourself. Dr. Jacobs, thank you for joining us. I really, really appreciate you taking time. Thank you very much.
Nice to meet you, Doctor.
Guys.
Thanks, David.
At Dr. Jacobs RAD, at Dr. Jacobs RAD on Twitter. Give him a follow. He's a good man and appreciate it. And listen, libertarian is just another word for I hate them all. So good for you. Me too.
Fantastic. Thanks again.
We'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye. All right, man. We'll talk to you soon, Dr. David Jacobs. There you go, boys. There's some fucking measured responses from a good doctor. Isn't that nice?
You can tell he actually thinks.
Yeah.
I feel like he has
Weird.
to take like 3 Mississippis before he answers people sometimes.
Well, yeah. We all learn a lesson from Dr.
Yeah.
David Jacobs.
I am never going to learn that
before
lesson.
you speak.
No, I don't think you will either. Yeah, there's no way you'll learn that lesson. Nick
What was he
Reed
on
joins
Twitter
us
again?
at Dr. Jacobs RAD. Nick Reed, our Blue Jays reporter. Nick Reed joins us, ladies and gentlemen. Say hi to Nick Reed. Nick,
Hey guys, how's it going?
AUS Reed on Twitter. Good to see you. The reason why I wanted you to come back is not just to talk about the Blue Jays, but is anybody else as jacked as I am for the Field of Dreams game tonight in Dyersville, Iowa? Anyone? Bueller?
I am. I actually am going to record it. Did you see Costner's pictures this morning on Twitter?
Yeah.
He was out in the field chucking the ball around. He's got to do the opening pitch. You got to let Costner throw the opening pitch, no?
You'd think he
Nick?
would. If you haven't seen is he?
Is he?
Yeah, I think he's throwing the first pitch, yeah.
Is he really? I had no idea. I had no idea he was throwing the first pitch. It'd be fucking incredible. Did you guys watch that movie, 1989, Field of Dreams? The movie came out. My dad and I never did shit together, like ever, other than golf. And I could only golf with him if I kept up. And I remember him saying, "Hey, let's go see this movie." And so we went and saw this movie. And at the end of it, I was in full tears. My dad, who never cried, was in full tears. It was about a guy trying to reconnect with his dad and make good use of his time and make amends for a terrible relationship we had with his dad. And so I don't know about you guys, but it was like profoundly affecting. It bothered me to the point where every time for the next 10 years after I saw that movie, I couldn't watch it because I'd get too fucking emotional watching Field of Dreams. And if you had a shitty relationship with your parents or your dad, you know how fucking incredible that movie was, right? Well, they're doing an actual Field of Dreams game. It's Yankees, White Sox. It's tonight. It's on Fox. And it's in Dyersville, Iowa. Nick, am I mistaken? Is that correct?
Iowa,
That's correct, yeah.
Dyersville, Iowa. What is this game all about? And tell me, like, this is literally right next to the set of the movie Field of Dreams, and it's got the house and everything, correct?
Yeah. So I think it's on the same plot of land that they had the original Field of Dreams on. I think they repurposed it just so that it's the big league caliber, and I saw some pictures of it yesterday when they were getting ready for today, and it just looks amazing.
Looks fantastic.
I saw some people in the media, they were doing tours of the house of Ray Kinsella from the movie, and I would just have so you have to pinch me if I was there, just because I think that would just be like a dream, just being there, like straight out of the movie set.
Yeah.
I didn't know this. Did you know this, Dean, that they took that set, the whole field, the house and everything, and they kept it intact since 1989 when they filmed that movie, and it's a tourist attraction. I had no fucking idea until today. I had no idea that was still a thing.
Yeah, I can just say,
they
Dean,
took it apart.
on something you just said, Dean, about the father relationship and everything. It's neat because W.P. Kinsella, who wrote the book, named that character Ray Kinsella, and it was also kind of like a quiet tribute to the same complex relationship that the writer had with his dad in real life. I had a tumultuous relationship with my dad. The one thing that I can look at from my childhood where we connected without any bullshit was baseball. I think Moneyball is like the modern day Field of Dreams in a way, because like that one line in that movie, like, how can you not get romantic about baseball? It is such a unique sport, and I don't know what the reason is. Sometimes it's fun trying to figure it out, but maybe it's because you spend so much time as a player, like you have to be alert, obviously, but you're isolated. You're all a bunch of singularities on the field. That's your universe that you have to operate, and there's no other sport that's really like that. Soccer a little bit, but and it has all these little neat tributaries, baseball, that allows for emotion to seep in. It's neat.
Mm-hmm. I have the same thing you guys have, but with dodgeball.
Swoops right in and gets rid of all the kind emotions that James just kind of poured out of his heart. Like it just
addressing all of my thoughts, Dean.
Came right in, talk about his dad, tough relationship. Locke comes in and just takes a big shit on your shining moment.
Yeah, he just
what a
took
fucking
big
great friend.
Right over my story.
Here, I'm going to play you the video, the Fox promo video, and then we're going to get into a couple of things with Nick. But this, watch this and tell me you don't get the chills. This is.
It took 30 years. And now they are here. The Yankees versus the White Sox. on the Field of Dreams. Coverage begins next Thursday at 6 p.m. Eastern, live on Fox.
That's tonight at 6.
Very cool.
By the way, in case you're wondering. Yeah, I'm super excited.
I have a quick question.
Yeah.
And I don't know if anybody can answer this, but they are wearing the 1919 uniforms, the White Sox and the Yankees for tonight's game. Is there a significance? Is there a connection with the movie? What's the deal with 1919? Was that when they went back in time?
Well, the movie was like about all the dead Chicago players that were banned for life from baseball. And so the reason why they became ghosts is because they were sort of like, they died and they I guess the idea, the metaphor is that something was incomplete about their life. So they all gravitated towards this field and to sort of like live the maximum amount of baseball that they could have lived if they didn't get banned for life. Isn't that the idea, guys? Like, Dean, you remember the movie?
I just wondered if there was significance with the 1919, but
yeah, because the Chicago Black Sox were a bunch of their players were banned for life because they helped gamblers fix the World Series.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's why they were called the Blackhawks.
That's exactly right.
Yeah. But Nick, what do you know about the uniforms? They're like legitimate throwbacks to the year that all that shit went down, correct?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think they're gonna be made of wool, but other than that, I think they're gonna be just exactly like they were back then. Exactly the 1919 Chicago Blackhawks tribute, which I mean, I guess you could say cancel culture isn't really prevalent in baseball if they're wearing those because they cheated and threw that World Series. But yeah, those 1919 uniforms that's the ones we'll be wearing tonight. And the Yankees, I'm not sure which ones they're gonna be wearing. I know they were around back then, so it might be the same
ones.
Year. Yeah. But yeah, no, they look great, and I think just having the backdrop of the corn stalk is just going to be so cool.
Yeah, it's the coolest, isn't it?
I got to remember to record it.
Yeah, you have to. It's like the fucking coolest. It's the coolest event I can remember.
So
it's
awesome
because it was such a weird movie. Like if you remember watching the movie, there was all kinds of possibilities. I mean, the magic and the weirdness and guys coming out of the corn and stuff like that was like fucking creepy and a little bit. But it was like I remember watching it, going, there's so many possibilities here. Like this is the possibility of getting his relationship with his dad and maybe playing baseball and Moonlight Graham finally getting that at bat where he's winking at the guy on the mound and he eases everybody's pain. Don't wink, kid. Remember that? And all that's great, but somehow they've managed to fuck it up already. What is this? Nick, explain what this is that's on sale today at the Field of Dreams game, because it looks like an apple turnover that's getting the pipe. That's what it looks like.
I think that's going to be the crown jewel of the whole Field of Dreams game. So Guy Fieri, who mayor of Flavortown, an American culinary icon, he was tasked by Chevrolet. Chevrolet, they wanted to come up basically with the most patriotic dish for this game because I guess there was this old Chevrolet commercial back in the day where it was like baseball, hot dogs, apple pie, Chevrolet, or something like that. And so they wanted to recreate this as a tribute and have it being served at the game. And so I guess Chevrolet came to him and was asking, like, could you like make this? Like, could you make an apple pie hot dog? And he was like, I don't know.
There you go.
Kind of crazy. And yeah, so they put it together and but they got the hot dog in the middle of the apple pie. They got some
I'm not eating that.
jam and some.
I want one.
Guy Fieri. Does anyone else miss Anthony Bourdain right now? We have to fucking settle for Guy Fieri, really?
Here are the uniforms, by the way. They're fucking slick, aren't they? Like those are slick uniforms. Oh, so do I. Awesome.
Look at the hat.
Blue Jays.
The New York uniform's a lot cleaner than I thought it would be.
That's from 1919. It's an exact replica, dude. Other than the
yeah, but
Nike.
I don't know 1919 uniforms like. It's got really clean lines, right?
Yeah. Cool. Yeah, it's super cool. Nick is our Blue Jays reporter. They won last night in a blowout against Anaheim. They get Anaheim again tonight. Is tonight the last one in the Laugher?
Tonight's the last one, and I think it's gonna be the best one because look who's on the mound. You got Jose Berrios, newest Blue Jay. He's been incredible in his first two starts for the Jays, and he's going up against Shohei Ohtani, who's going to be starting for the Angels, and he's going to be batting leadoff, which. Like, how often do you see that? Like, I can't remember the last time the Jays had faced a guy like that. So I think it's going to be two premier pitchers, and both teams that they played each other 3 times. They had a doubleheader yesterday, so I think that it's good. It's going to be a good game.
Yeah, it's going to be a great game, and I think what are they only a game back of the Yankees and a couple of games back of a wild card? What do they got to do to get into the like? Listen, they're 8-2 in their last 10. Being at home has been fucking incredible, and the American League East is a fucking dog's breakfast. You got the Rays at 69-45, the Red Sox at 66-50, Yankees 63-51, Blue Jays 62-51. I mean, and then the Orioles with 38-74 win-loss record on the season. They fucking suck. But what I'm saying is that the American League East, you've got two or three teams, like the Yankees are fading fast. The Red Sox are 7-3 in their last 10. The Rays are built for success, so I don't expect them to give up the American League East. But, I mean, they gambled. They brought in some players. They are kicking the shit out of teams in games that they're winning. What do they have to do to get into the playoffs or get into a wild card position from here on in?
I mean, the easy answer is just if they could just play every game at home, then they'd be in great shape because you saw how they kicked ass when they're at the Rogers Center, and I think they really were fueled by having the home fans there. But right now they're 6.5 games back in the division. They got 3 other teams to leapfrog. They're 2.5 games back in the wild card, and then they're only half a game back from the Yankees. So it'd be nice if the White Sox could do us a favor and beat the Yankees in the Field of Dreams game tonight. But I think there's a couple of things that the Jays should want to do down the stretch, and I think that is going to give them their best chance to win games. Which at this point, like, you can't worry about those other teams in the division because they're going to they're going to come at each other the whole time. You just got to worry about yourself and win the games you can win. But I think there's definitely some things that that they can improve on. That if they solidify that, they'll have a great chance of making a good run and play some competitive baseball in September and hopefully get a wild card spot and maybe even make a chance threat at the division. So one of the things that I think they need to do is that they need to win against plus 500 teams because they haven't been winning much against these teams that have a record above 500. They're 35-7 this year against teams that have a winning record, which like they're 9 games above 500 and 2 games below 500 against these winning teams. So that's kind of been their deficiency. They can't get it done against the good teams. So they're going to have a lot of winning teams that they're going to be facing on the schedule coming up. They got the White Sox for 4 games in August, which White Sox are the best team in the National League right now, or one of. And then in September, they have a really tough stretch where they're going to face a lot of guys in the division. From September 3rd to 15th, they're going to be playing the Oakland Athletics, who are just ahead of them in the wild card rankings. They're going to be playing the Yankees 4 times. They're going to be playing the Orioles 4 times, which is not great, but they have a doubleheader against them as well, which those are tough, especially like what's that, 150 games into the season. So those are some games that you have to win, and they're going to be facing the Rays as well during that stretch. So I think that just beating other teams in their division is going to be huge, and just being able to beat, like, if they can beat the White Sox and the Athletics, teams that they're going to want to be coming after, and teams that have good records that you want to prove yourself against those guys. I think that's going to be huge for them.
Yeah, they got the Yankees I think they got 2 or 3 sets against the Yankees. They got a couple of sets against the Orioles. They got the Tigers. They got a couple of shit trap series like against the Nationals and stuff where they cross over the National League. But I'm excited. I mean, I watched the game last night and they were fucking beating the shit out of the baseball. I don't know if you watched Teoscar Hernandez's grand slam last night.
Oh yeah,
guys, there's a thing that he does. Like, I love bat flips, but Teoscar Hernandez has this sexy indifference. When he fucking jerks one into the seats, he goes like this and then just drops the bat and kind of slowly saunters to first base. But the team is built for fucking exactly what they're supposed to be doing. So we'll see if they can make it into the playoffs. Thanks, Nick. Appreciate you being here.
More games. Like, maybe next year, even just 10 or 12. Right? Because there's just not enough baseball.
162 isn't enough. Yeah.
And start earlier in the year. Because, I mean, that's what I need. Like, baseball in fucking January then. Like,
forget Cal Ripken. Your streak of not addressing what the previous person said will never die, Lachlan.
Yeah, 100%. Always goes right to the shithole with it. I love it. Wouldn't be the fun it is if you didn't act like an idiot like almost all the time.
I'd love to hear his brain while the other person's talking. Now, what do I say? Oh, I got to mute.
How do I shit on this whole thing? How am I going to shit on this whole thing now? How can I shit on Nick, who's been on the show once?
Yeah. Hey, Nick, listen. Don't listen to these dicks. You did a great job of breaking it down.
Thanks, buddy. Great to see you, Nick. Yeah, dude. We'll talk to you soon. There's anytime. That is Nick Reed. You can get him at DeanBlundell.com. He's our Blue Jays blogger /reporter, and we're talking about the Field of Dreams game. I'm gonna cry. I will cry tonight, Hoppy. I'm going to cry.
You should.
When they start with the opening montage. I'll be full tears. I'm like, Dad, you want to have a catch?
Can you record that so we can actually include it in
I'm going
our
to.
opening montage?
I'm gonna turn it on and go, hey, Dad, you want to have a catch? I want to have a catch. I want to have a catch.
And I'm going to watch dodgeball.
No, you won't. You won't dodgeball. So the Winnipeg Jets did something. Did you see what they did this morning?
First.
Well, the whole vaccine.
Yeah.
Are they taking a beating online?
Huge.
That's
so
awesome.
This was put out, right? This the Winnipeg Jets did heroes work by putting this out on Twitter. True North Sports and Entertainment would like to confirm that our entertainment venues will be selling to full capacity and that we will require all employees, event staff, and guests to provide full proof of vaccination. Full proof, Hoppy. Full proof.
Bring it. Bring it
the
on.
majority of our season ticket holders, here's where it gets good, have shared with us that having proof of COVID-19 vaccination policy for the Canada Life Centre, the barn they play in, and the Burton Cummings Theatre is important to them. It's important to them.
The rich people.
So there's two things in there. Yeah, there's two things in there, and we're going to break down a couple of things.
Game though in Winnipeg.
Yeah, you can. It's like $10 for the best seat in the house. Two things. Two words that I got. Capacity, $20. Capacity, right? Pretty key, you would think. So when they hear that, we can fill our entire rink with paying customers that pay $15 for a shitty Pilsner beer and $500 for a we can fill this place if we say only vaccinated people. And the government's like, yeah.
You know what? I didn't think of that. That's,
and they're like,
And
they're like, okay, no big deal. That's how we get these people to fucking understand the vaccine passport shit or fully vaccinated
makes
people.
Sense now. That didn't even register to me.
All you have to do is go to Daryl Cates, who you hate. You probably won't go to him. The Canucks, the Flames, the Ottawa Senators. They won't listen to me because Eugene Melnick sued me last year. The Habs. And you say, hey, listen, guys, Jays, you can fill this fucking place up with people that have big, thick fucking wallets if you just move to a vaccine passport system. And they're all like, yeah.
See, but in Alberta, there might not be any regulations for in the fall, right? It might be wide open. So there wouldn't be any there wouldn't be any motivation to do that in Alberta. But in Manitoba, they are still limiting capacity. You can't go to a Bombers game, and it's outdoors in Manitoba, in Winnipeg, without a vaccine, proof of vaccine as well. Yeah. So that's interesting.
It changes stuff. Like for me, this changed stuff because when you get into the FAQs, frequently asked questions, on their website, it all made sense to me. None of it was onerous. Here's one of the first questions. Will there be additional restrictions on ticket transfer resale because of COVID-19? We don't anticipate any additional restrictions because everyone's fully vaccinated. Here's another question. What will the capacity be? Based on current provincial trends related to vaccination rates, we're expecting to plan for a full 82-game regular schedule with full or near full capacity for the 2022 season. Like, that made all sense in the world to me. All the sense in the world to me. What will the game day experience be like? Answer, based on current provincial trends, the same. Everybody's going to have fun. You're going to go to Canada Life Centre. We're going to pay attention to the PHO and what they tell us to do. And then we also wanted to tell you that all of our guests, and this is fucking great, regardless of any restrictions or conditions based on attending events, games, True North remains committed to ensuring the safe and comfortable environment for all guests, not vaccinated or unvaccinated. Continuous improvement has always been key to True North's commitment to providing superior guest experience and remains integral to our adaptability as pandemic, health, and sanitation guidelines and best practices continue to evolve. Honesty. Fuck. Imagine that. A professional sports organization saying, hey, if shit changes, we'll let you know, but this is what we're doing. Here are some examples of how we're taking steps to ensure your experience at Canada Life Centre will be safe and enjoyable. Canada Life Centre is now accredited by the Global Biorisk Advisory Council. Oh, some proactive work. which certifies our readiness to prevent and manage outbreaks and pandemics through the presence and best practices of preparation, response, recovery protocols, including stringent cleaning and disinfection. Here's what they've put in the whole fucking system for you. There's 100 hand sanitizing stations throughout the venue. Good. There are contactless security screening upon entry. Cashless transactions will be available at point of purchase. Employees are going to receive additional training to ensure their sanitation measures are applied at all time. Employees will be, this is fucking awesome, fully vaccinated and subject to rigorous game day, event day, health screening measures. Hoppy, does that not make you fucking just want to cream your jeans?
How are we not all doing that? How is this not everywhere?
It'll be interesting to see how private enterprise handles this whole vaccine passport
bring it
thing.
on. They can do whatever they want for customers.
Yeah.
Right? They
Can't
really
they?
can.
Like,
they can put whatever limitation they want to come into their premise. Can they not? If they're private?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I said it from day one, like the whole, just about the mask thing. You know what? I'm not allowed to go to the liquor store without pants on. So I was like, I you know what? I need to go to the liquor store. I'll wear a fucking mask. So it's similar. I mean, for some reason, when you throw the word vaccine passport on the end of it, people
get crazy.
It gets everyone gets twitchy, and James is being really fucking quiet right now.
Well, he might have paused.
The difference between this and like what was the smoking analogy before? There was another analogy. Is that all the other analogies are all things that you might have that you shouldn't have? So it's like if you work in the porn industry, for example, you get vigorous HIV tests, and if you have HIV, then you can't perform, right? And the difference is with the vaccine passports.
I haven't heard that analogy, but
you neither.
Well, here I'll give you. I just made it up, but all the analogies.
It's crazy how it went straight to porn for your analogy too, James.
I know, but it was the easiest one to come up with. But the point is that there is the parallel fall apart because it's usually the metaphor or the analogy or whatever is if you have something then you can't come in. So this is kind of like, you remember a few years ago when that whole Jordan Peterson thing happened and he was calling the pronoun thing a free speech issue. He was not talking about how you're not allowed to say something. He was talking about how the government was saying you had to say something like this. And so that's why this is like, David touched on it when he was on. This is an interesting legal question because this is like the wild, wild west for passports right now. But eventually it's going to be like, okay, and hopefully we don't need them anymore by the time this happens. But eventually someone's going to be like, okay, like you're telling us that we can't go somewhere because we didn't do something, not because we did something bad. And I get it, guys. I get it. You don't want a super spreader thing to happen. You want vaccinated people in there. I'm vaccinated. I get my second dose on Monday now that I've held out and I can't get the Pfizer.
You can come to a game. Yep. Come to a game with us.
In 2 weeks.
Right.
After the 2 weeks.
In 2 weeks as the whole thing ramps up. But you both bring up good points. It's private business, right? Like these guys are in the business of making money. They're not in the business of managing a fucking pandemic. So they're doing everything they can and throwing everything they can at making sure that they can operate. Like, it's not just about capacity. It's about employing hundreds of ushers, hundreds of ticket takers. But
it is kind of about capacity. Let's suggest that if you have an event and you have 100 seats available,
right,
and the government steps in and goes, yeah, but if there's a chance that COVID spreads, we're only going to let you sit 50 people in that 100, right? That 50 people are going to buy less beer, less hot dogs. Mm-hmm. Okay. And you're making less gate. So is it wrong, or should we be vilifying this organization, the Winnipeg Jets, for going, okay, well, I have 18,000 seats here. If I abide by the regulations, I can only put 10,000 people in because they said 55% or whatever the fuck the number is. And that's a lot less hot dogs and beer. But if I tell all of the unvaxxed people they can't come in, then I can fill the whole fucking building. I get more tickets and I sell more beer and hot dogs. I didn't think of it from that perspective. And if that's what's happening here, then how do you blame them?
You can't.
How can you be angry at them? It's capitalism.
Yeah, you can. And it's not just about the capitalism, and you bring up a fucking great point. This is a business operating in the best interest of the community. And so now,
It's
if
all
you
about
look at
fucking money, it always is.
I know it's
totally,
about money. But if you guys want to it's fine that it's happening. Okay, let's just say it's great. Everything's fine.
It's a long way you came from that.
It is the first time that we've actually said it's okay to discriminate against this one group of people. And I understand that there's a difference when it's a health crisis. I get it. But nonetheless,
why do you use discrimination?
Because
really?
That word gets brought up by that group all the time. They love throwing it around now.
They're the same fucking group that liken us to Nazis.
House, right? I discriminate against rapists coming into my house. The word discriminate isn't a bad word. It's just it's the literal definition of what we're doing. That's all. Like it's not. I'm not trying to be hyperbolic.
I don't look at it like
that. Absolutely is.
James, our society has rules all over the place. Why is this rule discriminatory compared to another rule? If I want to drive to work 180 miles an hour, I can't. There's a law, and there's a lot of.
And if you get pulled over, according to James's logic, if you get pulled over and get a ticket, you got discriminated against.
You can if you don't get caught.
That's not the analogy. Because the one thing is that the analogy they just use, you're breaking the law. You're breaking a law. So there's no law that the unvaccinated or the people without passports, I should say, are
during the
breaking.
Emergency Act has been enacted. So yeah, you are breaking the law.
So what law is it that you're breaking if you don't have a passport?
Being an asshole.
They actually made it law in France, eh?
Yeah, they did.
Yeah, you could get a ticket if you didn't have your passport with you.
You can go to jail for up to 6 days. 6 days if you don't have your vaccine passport. That part's crazy to me. That's crazy.
I'm worried that there's a whole bunch of shit we haven't even thought of.
Oh, relax. Don't be worried about it. Let's just get through the rest of the Q&A. What?
Tokyo.
What are you going to tell me?
You think Tokyo would have taken that on after holding that Olympics and having no asses in the seats? But if they could do what the Jets are doing and they're allowed to be full capacity, they'd be a little bit different, wouldn't it?
Yeah, totally.
The revenue they lost, I can't even imagine what they're down.
They discriminated against all those Olympic fans.
They lost
billions
of dollars.
So this is another question, and I think it's worth noting. Do I need to wear a mask to attend a Winnipeg Jets game for the entire season? Based on current fan feedback, you'll be required to wear a mask to attend games and events. Please refer back to this page. So everybody's wearing masks unless you're eating. Will it suck going to a game full of people wearing a mask? I don't know. I don't like that idea. If you're vaccinated, I guess. Will children be permitted to attend games? And I found this really cool. As of now, children will be permitted to attend games and or events. Children between the ages of 12 to 17 will be required to be fully vaccinated. So if your kid wants to go to a game and you're an anti-vaxxer and he loves the Jets, you're fucked. All children be required to wear masks. Please refer back to this page for updates. This was cool too. Well, I need a vaccine to attend a Jets game. As of now, you're required to be fully vaccinated to attend games.
We had a guy say today that, yeah, but what about those guys with health risks that they can't get the vaccine? And I mean, how small is that population, right? There's a handful, and Brad, you probably know this better than I do, but there are certain things in the vaccine that have eliminated some of the population from getting it, right?
Yep, 100%. Absolutely.
And how high is that number? Is it like 1 in 100, 1 in 1,000?
All I know is I've heard rare. I can't give you
it's very rare. There's one thing in particular that is causing an issue with a very small percentage. That
I have misinformation. I have a question for James, because as you're saying that, I'm starting to think this might be discriminatory, actually.
Oh
no.
Go on.
It totally is.
He's going to be like discriminating against idiots? Is it one of those?
No, but what you just said is, if I'm to read between the lines, Locke, is it if you're like a sickly person that can't get the vaccine?
There is situations like that.
No, but what I'm saying is, like, the way you made it sound, it's like, I'm willing to sacrifice those people in terms of not going to games. Like, that's
never said that, but if you are so sickly you can't get the vaccine, maybe you should stay at home, watch it on the tube.
Like a guy with no arms is not going to throw the opening pitch tonight.
Yeah,
probably.
Yeah, that's right. Well, no way at all. No
you
arms
don't
and
know
no
that.
legs. Yeah, that's true.
There's that
Jim
guitar
Abbott
player that plays with his feet. Maybe he'll be there. Remember that guy?
Oh, that's true.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. I remember that guy. He came to our school. He played like an acoustic guitar with his feet.
How the fuck do you do barcodes
Yeah.
with your feet?
Same guy did was he painting too? That guy had, he had great toes, man.
He had really good toes.
He fucking did, like insane toes.
Time to wrap it up. But because Brad Hopper, paramedic, and frontline workers here, we ended last week's podcast with
we got an in the bum story. Fantastic.
Yeah. It's time for another. What has Brad found inside someone's bum?
You don't pull it out, do you?
Not a chance. We're not allowed.
Okay. All right. You're just transporting them with said object in rectum.
Oh yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Last week,
positioning is key.
Last week was an apple. 40-year-old gentleman with an apple in his stink star.
You know why
what do you have for us this week?
The wife wasn't there because she's the one that fucking put in the apple. I bet you any money.
Okay.
I'm questioning if there was a wife.
I think you might be right about that.
I think there was a wife. It was a Granny Smith.
That's right.
Brad Hopper, paramedic. What have you found in someone's bum?
Go to the mood that's set with this music. You got to put yourself walking into a house to find a 50-year-old man in the tub that can't come to the door.
Can't come either.
Simply calling us out down the hall. He managed to call 911. In the tub, he had a few toys, and I'm not talking adult toys. These were kid toys, and this is where the infamous G.I. Joe decided to go into an underwater cave and couldn't get out. The unfortunate part with that is it actually triggered quite a hemorrhage and led to the 911 call.
Yeah, you got to take that helmet off.
He thought it would be fine, I guess, to put G.I. Joe where no man should go. No idea what was in his mind. There were other toys. He denied any other toys. I believe the x-ray was clear other than G.I. Joe. But I don't know what to say to it. It was a true medical emergency. He was something we had to transport quick because we don't know, as we said, we don't remove the obstruction and we have no ability to visualize, thank God.
Did he say to you, Brad, I got a G.I. Joe in my ass? Or did he just say, I have something lodged up there that's causing some problems, may have had more edges than I thought it did?
That was all my deductive reasoning. All of it.
Okay.
There was a slew of similar animated toys around the tub, so I had to ask if it was
fucking McDonald's Happy Meals, eh?
That's right.
You know what it was? It was the arms and the hands.
Yeah.
Because once it's in,
but you could.
Then the arms go like that, or they point down, and then when you pull, the arms go like this, like a wine opener.
It was breach. You can't make these things up. You almost have to take it in the next day. You can't even think about when it's going on. Again, this one.
Sorry, Brad. When you walked into the bathroom and you assessed the situation, what was the first thing the gentleman said to you to give you some kind of indication?
I am bleeding out my ass.
Oh wow!
And then it is up to us to decide what said cause may be. There could be disease, there could be injury, and this was definitely injury.
Yeah. Self-induced.
I was with the same partner for many years back in those days, and we again just looked at each other and decided, well, who's going to do this one? And off we went. The bed came in. It was quite graphic because you imagine a hemorrhage into a tub full of water. We didn't truly know what character it was until the doctors informed us about a week later when they said, do you remember that gentleman we brought in? And that's when the story rolled. So there's two things. You got the apple and G.I. Joe.
So it was literally G.I. Joe? It wasn't Ripcord?
Yeah, no. Well,
wasn't Snake Eyes?
I was told it was G.I. Joe
Zartan
himself,
with his bow and arrow?
And I guess...
Why do I know something?
Is there a trend out there? Is there a fad? Is there a niche?
Yeah, it's a thing. Yeah.
G.I. Joe?
I mean, Yeah, I hear that one often. Like I have a couple of friends that are doctors. Yeah, and one guy was like, action figures are a big deal. Light bulbs, light bulbs are huge in that community. Yeah, people that hoop things, they're called boofers. Apparently, did you know that?
Can I do a spoiler alert?
Yeah,
Did
please.
you know that 98.6 degrees can bake a potato?
Wow, you just
I'm not
spoiled
going to
next
say
week's
how.
thing.
Yeah.
And you don't have to use any butter or oil.
These potatoes taste like shit.
Well, maybe some oil.
Did you hear that, Locke? If you're ever in a crunch
did.
for time, if you're in a crunch for time and your wife says you're on baked potato duty and you got a busy day ahead of you.
Honey, I'm going to need you to help me here.
No foil, Locke. No foil.
No foil.
I can't even imagine what's going through your mind to draw a tub and then try to jam a G.I. Joe up your ass. There's a lot of darkness there.
Excitement.
Thank you. Thank you.
He just needed to feel. You can't judge that guy. Who are you, dude? I watched a video of you taking your garbage out in a fucking Speedo and work boots yesterday in the middle of the day.
But I wasn't hooping. I wasn't hooping a tree fruit.
Yeah. Right? And if he would, it'd be an olive, like a normal human being.
Yeah.
With the
I wasn't hooping a tree fruit. It's always a good answer to someone when they say, "What'd you do?" You're like, "Fuck, at least I didn't hoop a tree fruit."
That's the winning hand every time.
Yeah, exactly. Anyway, Brad, listen, God bless you in the work you do. Brad Hopper 14 on Twitter is where you can find him. As you continue this journey, please keep us posted on the kind of efforts that you have to make every day to save people who pretend that life isn't real.
Thanks for having me, guys. Yeah, really good to represent all of us.
Good to see you, Brad.
We appreciate it. Getting a lot of good feedback from all of my colleagues. So we appreciate the venue here.
Man, we appreciate you being here. Bring next time we have you on, bring a special friend. Bring another paramedic. It's like a whole paramedic podcast.
Careful what you wish for. I got one.
Yeah, do it. All right, good.
All right. And then let's get drunk together.
Yeah, let's get drunk on the job. That'll be fun, right?
Also, more pictures of your dog on Twitter. Buddy.
Yeah, please.
Right on. Yeah.
Very cool.
She's hiding around right now, so we'll do that. Thanks, guys.
Okay, buddy. We'll talk to you soon. There's Brad Hopper, ladies and gentlemen.
He's good shit.
What a great guy. I learned a lot today, actually. Did you know that?
I like the different perspectives, and Dr. David had a really cool kind of well thought out approach to some of the things that we have been aggressive on. I thought, right, and not that he took the steam out of any arguments we've had, but I think he shed some light on maybe some perspective that was well needed.
He's a lot more civil than us. Right? Like
that's a better way of putting it.
He's measured and careful.
Quicker way of putting it, James. Yes, that's perfect. Yeah.
Yeah, he doesn't call people who aren't vaccinated the same names we do.
Yes.
Right? Like he didn't call anybody a cock.
He didn't diagnose me.
No.
I'm disappointed. I asked for a medical diagnosis of my issues, and he glossed over that. Maybe next time.
He's not a psychiatrist.
He can't bring himself to say fucking asshole on air.
He's not an addiction specialist, and he's not a psychiatrist. So he's of no use to you. Thanks for doing this, boys. Great to see you.
That was fun.
Good to see you guys.
Yeah.
Are we doing one tomorrow?
I don't think so.
We're done for the week?
Yeah.
I
think so. You can do tomorrow?
Well, technically I can't, but my boss isn't going to be there, so I might just do it. I might have to stop and check out books.
Prison library?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, let me know what we got going next week. Because I'm going to be hit and miss next week. I already talked to you about this team, but I'm on vacay. So
if we fall back down to 7, Lachlan, it's your fault.
Dude, I'm coming with you on vacay. We talked about this.
We listen. That's
I'm coming with you. Your wife,
conversation.
No, let's get this out right now before we go. So I'm going to Edmonton at the end of the month for the Friends and Neighbors concert or whatever the fuck it's called. What's it called?
Together again. That reminds me, I got to send Mike, my buddy, a Trick Star note.
What are you watching?
No, it's the Together Again concerts with Our Lady Peace, Danko Jones, all those guys we've had on the show, and they're doing this big show, and I'm going to go out and see Lachlan and see the fellas, and we're all going to hang out, and I'm going to be DD. But the thing is that Lachlan and his wife, Lachlan invited me on his vacation next week.
You invited yourself on my tree fort vacation.
I'm talking. So he tells me last week, he's like, guess what? I'm going on a vacation with my wife. I'm like, where are you going? He goes, tree fort. I'm like, I've always wanted to go stay in a fucking tree fort. I'm coming. So he mentioned it to Deb, and she's adamant that I'm not going on the tree fort vacation.
Well, then you're not going on the tree fort vacation, right?
No, I am going on the tree fort vacation.
He wants me
I don't
to
see why. An extra
sleeping
bag. And you and I and Deb will hang out all week. It'll be super uncomfortable. I'll be like, hey, guys, what are we doing for dinner tonight? And you'll be like, we're having private time. And I'm like, no, you're not. I'm visiting. Let's have a great time together. So I don't see the problem. I know Deb has told you several times she doesn't want me to come.
A tree. I am not taking Dean. The thing about this, too, which is really, really funny, because Jimmy, every once in a while, has a nugget. Like, it's not often, but he has a nugget. We're talking about the fact that Dean wanted to come on my tree fort trip.
I do.
And Jimmy goes, well, you should just tell her she always brings the kids on vacation. You should be allowed to bring Dean.
I have a question for you. Like, you guys have been married for a long time. I'm not married by design because the idea of actually going away with my spouse for an extended period of time and being like alone with them always creeped me out. Like it in a weird way, it was like, oh my God, this is going to be a battle all week. I'm going to have to pay attention. I'm going to have to care. I'm going to have to do all that stuff and see how she's doing and hold her hand.
You should
I hate holding hands.
I think you still have some things to work on.
I think so. Yeah. I was thinking about that the other day.
Feelings,
but
for example.
Like the thought of you going on a vacation with just your wife, in the back of my mind, I internalize that and I go, yeah, that would suck. But I'm not married to your wife. She's lovely, and you guys have a good time.
And I'm not just wonder, like, I'm not.
Are you allowed to be on your phone? Are you allowed to watch television? Are you allowed to get drunk? All that stuff?
Yeah. Oh, I'll be drunk the whole time. No,
It's not really vacation.
I like my wife. I enjoy her company, and we get along. And actually, these are much needed things in our lives because we very rarely do this. So when we do go away, even for a couple of days, it just recharges our batteries a bit as far as a couple goes, because we're kind of like, I probably don't need to tell you this, but I'm a lot to deal with generally day to day. Probably an unnecessary comment, but
except your underwear. Your underwear is not a lot to deal with. There's just a little.
But Deb and I get along, and when we do go away on vacation, I mean, I like, it doesn't give me anxiety that I'm going away with my wife for 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Even if we went away for a week, it wouldn't give me anxiety.
This is Wade. Wade said, like, he's like, I can relate. My wife is my best what?
Well, Wade's got a good relationship with his wife too. I know Wade. Wade's a listener. So there are people out there that actually have good relationships with their.
So Wade's a defeated sitcom husband. Is that what you're saying?
No, Wade. I've met Wade. Wade's a good shit.
I'm just kidding.
Right?
I don't know who fucking Wade is.
Positive Mike has a point. I probably give my wife anxiety.
All right.
Yeah.
No, you can't, James. I was waiting for you to weigh in on that, and you didn't, because I was kind of trying to drag you out of the weeds there.
I've gone on vacation with my wife before, but it's like, I don't know. I love the hell out of my wife, but we fight, So it's like, we don't fight because I hate her. We fight because I love her. You know what I mean? Like,
well, you fight because you're a dick.
Probably. Let's be serious.
Let's be honest.
Yeah, maybe I've never met her. There's a very good chance she's a dick if she married you. Yeah.
Everyone in a relationship is like 30% dick, at least, right? Like, everyone.
That's true.
Yeah.
Not me.
Oh, I can be a fucking raging asshole sometimes.
Yeah, we fucking
Not
know.
me.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
Not me.
All right.
I'm the only one here divorced, and I'm willingly single. I'm pretty good at relationships.
Yeah, that's the hardest evidence out of the three of us that you are a dick.
Receipts. Thanks, guys. Appreciate you.
See you guys.
Have a good one. We'll see you
bet.
next week.
Lachlan Cross, 95.7 Cruise FM, James DiFiore, blackballmedia.ca is where you can check him out. Thanks, buddy. Great to see you. Probably gives her anxiety. I listened to a relationship podcast the other day because I am literally grossed out by the whole idea. Grossed. Oh, you want someone else to move in with you, and you want to have to go to a bunch of family things that you don't really care to go to, but you have to? No, not for me. Not interested. Anticipate someone else's needs? Not interested. It's just where I am. Thanks for watching and being part of the show. Thanks to Lachlan, Dr. David Jacobs. Thanks to our friend Brad Hopper as well. And thanks to you for being part of the podcast. We appreciate it. You can find everything we do at deanblundell.com. Sign up for a newsletter there, and we'll send it to you as opposed to you having to go look for it all the time, which would be great. Do us a favor. Also, sign up for our YouTube channel if you're listening to this on Apple TV. We'd appreciate that. Go to Dean Blundell Show on YouTube. Boom, you're there. Subscribe to our channel, also on Twitch. Appreciate it. Thank you, Wade. Appreciate you. Thanks. Yeah. Love you guys. So much fun that fucking people actually watch and listen to this, because the alternative is it's very, very demotivational or unmotivating. Demotivating? It's not motivational. That's what I was trying to say. It's been 2 hours. Cut me some slack. We've been doing this for 2 hours. Anyway, thanks everybody for being part of the podcast, including our friends over at Ed's Fine Imports. His Gitch, the #1 boxer brief in the country. Get them today. I don't know what modal fabric means, but it's got to be good. Breathable. You want that area to breathe. Moisture wicking. Yeah, you want the moisture away from your stuff. Super soft. I'm sold. Pouch in the front. Boxer briefs. Gitch 3 is your promo code. Make sure that you Gitch, and then the #3. Make sure that you order from them today. Go to edsfineimports.com. Also, thanks to our friends at Domination, domination.com. It's where you can go to use AI to be able to help you produce content. DMNTN.com is where you go. Free to try once or twice, I think. Maybe 3 times. I don't know. We use them all the time because we subscribe to the service and we pay for it because they're fucking incredible. So use domination.com today if you produce content. Makes it fast, makes it easy, makes it professional, and you look good too. DMNTN.com. Also Easy Auto Financial. Our friends at Easy Auto Financial want to get you in a car. They want to get you some financing. There's zero obligation to, which is always important. You don't have people chasing you down going, hey, what about that car? You qualify for financing, which is their job. They'll also send you to go get that car as well. It's stupid to buy a car any other way. They take all the work out of it for you. EasyAutoFinancial.ca. And Blue Microphones. If you're in the game, go to Blue Microphones on Twitter or at BlueMics.com. Check them out. XLR mics. We use them all the time. Every single one of our producers use them. You should too. Thanks. Have a great day. See you tomorrow, maybe.